This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome inside the Wrestling War Zone, the Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective. I am JT, and joining me as always, my partner on this journey through wrestling history, that is Chad Campbell. Chad, how are you?
Hanging in there tonight. Hanging in there. Hanging tough.
Yeah, he's working hurt. He's working injured tonight. I guess you're WWF tonight because you're non-guaranteed contract. You got to work. You can't just mail it in and get the guaranteed money.
Right. Maybe Roddy Piper can come in and save me from the working conditions.
So what's going on now? We've obviously it's been a running theme on the show that we struggle to find nights to get this thing in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had this lined up, and then I don't know, a few hours ago it looked dicey. What's going on with you?
Well, I mean, just general sickness. Strep throat has ran through the Campbell household. Jennifer, I still don't know what Jennifer had. So she was out of commission this weekend. She gave it to Carson Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Caden's got it. So Carson's doing pretty good today. Caden's still fading. I had a headache, but I actually think mine is probably just general. I mean, the temperature's changed dramatically, so that never helps. We went from high of 70 to a week and a half ago we were still in the 90s, so that's always fun. Like this morning when I went to my car, it was 40, which was just frigid.
Wow, that's like zero for you.
It was bad. Well, I mean, considering it was 85 a week and a half ago.
No, and so that we get dramatic. That variance. We get that day-to-day variance, like pretty much. Like yesterday when I went to work, it was probably like in the 40s, and then today it was like 60-something. But yeah, we're headed that way permanently soon. But yeah, no, that always wreaks havoc. The weather change, and like I don't know how your allergy season is. Like the fall up here is pretty bad. Like this is the worst I've been in a while these last few weeks, and I think the illness is going on too. My son had it all last week. He pretty much missed like all of school. He's just had a fever and was run down. So I think it's just going around.
The other thing is at work, we've had a real big deadline. So we did hit that today. So congrats to us. But it's been like Black Friday, that type of intensity. And I will tell you, I do have a fun little anecdote from work, which is surprising. But of all the occupations that I would not expect to get feisty with one another, actuaries would be very low on that list. But we had a pretty big actuary throwdown in the conference room yesterday.
Was it like Rumble 05 where they were like paired off and doing the
kind of reminded me more of Billionaire Ted's wrestling war room. But yeah, it was quite the scene where our actuary was arguing with their actuary. They were using a mortality table from 1980, and our actuary said that was fake news, old data that they shouldn't be using. And then their actuary questioned the competence level of our actuary. And this was the best scene. So once he did that, our actuary stopped him in his tracks, pointed at him, and said, "I strongly advise you not to question my credibility." So, and everybody else was just like, "Oh shit, it's going down." So
did you have to break them up, or did you just kind of observe?
Well, it's kind of odd because this was the actuaries going at each other, and we're auditing the client, and both of us were in there. Like, we were in there, the auditors and the representatives of the client, and we were, for once, we were kind of on the same side. Like, can you believe how crazy these folks are? We just sat back and looked at each other like, oh, basically did like Jim Halpert faces to each other as the actuaries went to town.
So when one of them won, did you say, I picked him, that was it, I called it?
They ended up, well, that's the great thing about being an auditor is eventually we always win. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, whatever we want to say, we can do it. They can appeal.
But I'm not a really big fan of auditors right now, without getting too much into it. I had a meeting scheduled for an audit that's kicking off next Friday at 3 p.m. Like, who does that, Chad? Get a life. 3 p.m. meeting on a Friday.
That's still a work day, is it not?
Come on, grow up.
Well, so yesterday was the second actuary meeting. The first actuary meeting was last Friday. It was supposed to be at noon. The building we was in received a bomb threat, so we had to evacuate. So that was fun too. 34 flights of stairs, because the elevators were down. So
no, why they're angry. Having Friday afternoon meetings, that'd be fighting too. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with the auditors?
I don't know. Well, this is actuaries. So I don't know about the auditors. I tell to work on Friday. There's been, I can safely say that quite a few episodes of this very podcast you're listening to have been recorded on Friday from the comfort of my home.
How do you think Letters from Center Stage was recorded?
Yes.
Well, on Fridays. Friday afternoons for that one. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's 2019. You shouldn't be having meetings on Friday afternoons unless it's imperative. So I thought we'd start off with a new gimmick here, Chad.
Okay.
Because we're talking Monday Night Wars, but there's a Wednesday Night War going on this current day. So I thought we'd start each episode now with just a quick temperature check of what you think about the Wednesday Night War each episode, because it kind of ties in well with the wrestling wars. It's been reignited. It's as close as to what we're talking about since we've had since then. Have you watched regularly since they both started?
So I have been a AEW. I'm watching everything. Mm-hmm. NXT. I'm just catching the big notes. Did
you know that Britt Baker was a dentist?
I am well aware of that.
Making sure you knew that. Yeah, I've been the same way. So I'm lucky enough to have the two TV set up. So I usually, if I can, have them both on. If like we're watching something or doing like whatever, or like when I was watching the Yankees still, I had AEW on, and then I just kind of watch NXT later as like kind of doze it off material. And for me, it's not a commentary on NXT. Like I see people putting it down versus AEW, but to me, it's more AEW is just new, it's fresh, it's just a different product. So like I watch a bunch of WWE and I like NXT, but if they're head to head, I'm just gonna pick something that's new and different that I haven't seen a lot of. To me, that and they're holding me, like it's been great, so that helps a lot. But I think NXT's still been quite good. Like it hasn't been trash. Like, I don't know. I don't get the rush to pick sides these days. Like I kind of get it back in the 90s because it felt more like an attack and you were grounded more in your sides. But now it's just like, who cares? Like it's just more stuff to watch. Like I just don't get the adversarial piece of it.
I mean, I have no problem cheering against NXT, so I'm firmly on Team AEW.
But why? I mean, what do they do that makes you want them to not do well?
I mean, it's going to come off as pretentious, but I just think it goes back to the fact that, like, these Donovan Dijakovic or whatever the hell his name is now versus Keith Lee matches. Are they good matches still? Yes. But at this point in my wrestling fandom, it's almost like I've been there, done that. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of like,
right, but why does it have to be a root against? 2016. But why does it have to be like a root against thing? Like, why can't you just say?
Because I think when people say like, "Oh, this was a great match," or NXT still winning,
well, that's in ring. But that's a beef with the people, not with the product.
Well, I think the product also. I mean, there's issues. Like one, they're in Full Sail. They got to get out of there, which
Sure.
I think everybody knows. Okay, so that's part of it. Two, it's the same. It's a stagnant looking presentation and product. There's just nothing that feels fresh. Now with AEW, I mean, we don't know. We're recording in the middle of this episode. Will they end with a big heel beat down or whatever to end this show, and that'll be kind of 4 shows in a row that they've done that? I mean, it's possible, and that's where that can get a little long in the tooth. But it does feel like it's just something new and not stagnant. And to me, NXT was going head to head with that. They knew they were going head to head. Forget this, all USA wanted them. So, I mean, they went to screw with AEW. I mean, that's what it's a head to head competition, which is fine. They're within their right to do that. But that's what that was. So to me, if you're doing that, like, give it your best shot. And then it kind of goes beyond NXT, because I still do like the NXT talent, some of it. But like SmackDown, I mean, SmackDown is on freaking Fox. And what is different besides, I mean, what's different about that show since they moved to Fox besides the new set?
Nothing. No, I know.
Yeah.
And that's been a bigger problem beyond this. Yeah, I mean, it's still stale. And even with Paul Heyman running Raw, like, there's still rampant problems there. But I guess it kind of speaks to my point where it's just a lot of variety, where just watch what you want. And I don't want NXT to fail, even though I prefer AEW at this point, because there still may be a couple of good things that I could watch off of that. Like, to me, the competition's good, and hopefully, I'm hoping eventually it'll make them raise it. And they have had to, because I think the weekly NXT has been forced to at least now put up like big matches consistently versus, and maybe that's better or worse, I don't know. Some people preferred probably the old format, but they've definitely been pushed. I just don't know if they know how to raise the game. Like, that voice, I don't know if it exists like it did in 97, 98, like we're going to get to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think the history of Boom Wrestling has resulted in the formation of kind of like a a star that can translate into the mainstream. And
do you think AEW has that star yet?
I don't think either side has that. So I don't know, but I think part of it also is, I mean, it's weird with AEW because 2 years ago, I mean, I watched I watched the 2016 Royal Rumble a couple of weeks ago. And my God, watching that now back again, it was incredible to see. Like, I mean, we're only 3.5 years from that, and Stardust runs out there to zero reaction, just complete indifference. And now he's kind of a bona fide main event star that can draw. And I mean, it kind of went down the list. Like, there was a match where I watched it, and I'm like, I mean, because like Jericho's in that too.
Right.
He's in that Royal Rumble as kind of, like a bit player, but certainly not someone that had much of a chance to win, like a 2% chance or whatever if you were given odds going in. Kind of like your veteran, he's hanging around. But it's just crazy to see. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if they've got it yet. I would say no, but
so how do you think, so the last question I'll ask you, because we've been watching, obviously, Nitro from the start. How does their first few compare to, like, the feeling you got watching these early Nitros? I mean, I know it's tough because we're not in the moment on the Nitros, but do you feel like, have they started as hot? Are they hotter than Nitro was at that point?
I thought the second AEW show was about as good as any Nitro show we've seen. I thought that was just a great show, top to bottom, between the Jericho promo, the finale with everything going on there, the multi-layers, the MJF stuff. I really enjoyed that show. The rest, I feel like it's comparable. I mean, I think that's something we talked about privately, and you kind of discussed on Twitter with some responses and stuff. But I do think there's this stigma that Nitro sucked. Which is
nonsense, as we're seeing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, where they think it sucked or it just was.
Well, I'll tell you what
overkill,
it is. Yes. I think that's part of it. But as we're seeing, like, that stuff did suck, Hogan. But it also hasn't overshadowed the whole episodes. Like there's maybe been only a couple where he's dominated the shows. Like there's been a ton of other good stuff, and we can see how fresh it feels compared to Raw, which is similar to what we're talking about right now, right? Which is kind of why I brought it up with AEW and how fresh and new it feels. The only difference, obviously glaring, is that WCW existed for a while prior to Nitro, so they had a lot more establishment. They had name guys, a built-in audience. Like this is more impressive in ways because they are literally brand new. And the impressive thing to me is the audience that they've pulled in and how net new it is. Like they haven't necessarily siphoned from WWE. They've just found this lapsed audience that was just waiting like for this, which is crazy to me. And it was just a perfect storm. Like they found the right guy with the right money and the right creative minds and the right freedom. And it's funny because and this will be the last point because I do want to get to our stuff. But I noticed one thing that made me really like AEW even more tonight. And besides, like the awesome, I don't know if you've seen any Tonight Show, but the tag opener was tremendous.
Was that the Lucha Bros versus Private Party? Okay, yeah. So you like that match? Did you watch that?
Yeah,
okay.
It was great. Yeah.
So I'm going to have to watch that when we get done with our podcast because our friend Charles from Pro Wrestling Only, he was messaging me, and Charles has been dormant as far as watching stuff for probably 2 years now. Really, just kind of he's been compiling a bunch of footage and archiving a bunch of stuff, but his actual wrestling watching has been greatly reduced.
Right.
This was somebody that watched thousands of matches a year. Now he's probably been down to like 100 or 200 the last couple of years. But he's been watching the AEW stuff. But he said he didn't like the.
No. All right.
No, but he said that was kind of the first thing that he'd seen from them that he didn't like. That kind of went against consensus. So I'm interested to watch
Twitter
it.
Was overjoyed by it.
Okay.
And I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I thought it was really good. But anyway, so during that match, I noticed one of the guys at Private Party's last name is Cassidy. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute, they have Orange Cassidy. Oh my God, they are not overthinking and overproducing because two guys have the same fucking last name that have nothing to do with each other, right? If this is WWE, that guy would have a different name, right? I mean, So it's like a little thing like that won me over even more because I'm like, holy shit, like this is like such just a more like, don't worry about this bullshit and just focus on the product, putting it out there and not worrying about it. Don't treat the fans as stupid. And I think that's a big part of what they have going on right now, is not treating the fans like idiots and just putting on a solid wrestling presentation. So that was one little thing I noticed. The other big thing is I think Tony Schiavone, as you know, I'm a known branded Tony Schiavone mark and have been for a long time. I think he's been great. And the only thing I don't like is Jim Ross. Like, I think he is cooked. I think his fastball is gone, like just completely toast. He's Pedro coming in the 2009 World Series against the Yankees for the Phillies. I mean, that's where he's at right now. He's everyone's daddy. And I don't feel alone in that. Our friends at Voices of Wrestling tweeted the same sentiment tonight. And I'm fine with him, like, being utilized, but do it where he fits. Like, to me, put him in a backstage interview capacity, like a sit-down interview, like put them in voiceover video packages, put them in some, I know they don't have like authority figures and I'm fine with them not having one, but some sort of role like that, like a late era Gorilla Monsoon, like we're seeing now, you know what I mean? Like do something along that line versus having him be the main voice, because he just feels off, like he can't keep up and he feels old and tired and just, I don't know, it's sarcastic, like it just doesn't fit what they're trying to give. And you get a guy like Tony bringing tons of energy. And I didn't watch AEW Dark, but I know Taz got a lot of love for his work on that show. Bring him in, put him with Excalibur and Tony, or what, do something. But to me, JR is just, he's a drag on the show. He's like the only negative I've had so far with AEW. And again, like I'm fine with him being involved. Like I think he's got tons of value. I just don't think it's as a main play-by-play or color analyst at this point.
Well, you could do. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities. We've seen their vignettes and video packages, like the ones they've done with Cody. I mean, like Ross would be good with that. Like, you know, like Jim Ross on assignment.
Yes.
Doing some like outside the lines or, something like that. Investigative reporting or
exactly.
Doing
and they do so much like social and online, like that exact thing.
Yeah. That'd be good.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, we spent too much time on that, but we'll try and do it. Maybe not every episode, maybe every few. But I just think it was cool to take the temperature because it just ties in so well to what we're talking about. And I think the hope is that AEW is going to shake things up just like Nitro did, as we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing is like the U.S. scene for so long since WCW went out of business, but even since like, the
ROH's peak probably.
Well, I would go till I would say once you knew Russo and Ferrara coming in was a flop, like the market share difference was just so big in U.S. wrestling between WWF and E and everybody else. So at least if AEW can get some consistency and get some sort of piece of that pie, that's going to be impressive. But we'll see. I mean, ratings keep slipping. Everybody thinks tonight's going to be a bloodbath, so we'll keep the temperature check on it. So,
well, I mean, the NBA hype is real this season. Like, there's a lot of parity, a lot of shakeup.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I mean, to mention is usually around this time of year, just the time of year is kind of maligned for wrestling in general and my interest, and then work being busy always puts a damper in things. But in the past couple of weeks, I've joked with Drew from Genie and the Gems that I quit wrestling this week because I have only been watching AEW, and I watched the 2 shows tonight. That's the only thing I've watched in the past 2.5 weeks of wrestling, and part of that is I've went in full hog on the NBA because of the parity. So
yeah, no,
we'll see. I mean, it could be a phase, but I do think that's an exciting development for sure.
No, I agree. And for someone like me who doesn't even have a team to root for, really, it almost makes it even more exciting because there's so much up in the air. Any random game, I watched pretty much the whole Pelicans Raptors game last night, which was excellent. I didn't make it to the whole Lakers Clippers, so I was pissed I missed the end. I watched the first half, but even the Cowboy, he's a diehard NBA fan who never before has gotten league pass, or at least in the last while he ordered it this year too, to watch more. So I do think there's a lot of hype. I'm out on the World Series, obviously. I'm not watching it.
Yeah, once the Braves choked it away, it's just tough to get back into that. Yeah,
it's hard. It's such a grind, and it's hard. I always need a round. If they lost, when they lose in the first round, I can usually get back by the World Series, but because they just lost, and plus, I mean, it is what it is across sports, and I know the Yankees aren't room to talk with their own closer, but all the stuff with the Astros has been really disgusting the last few days, and I've had no interest in even seeing them at this point. With all the bullshit and the way they've treated, even beyond just the comments, it's more about the treatment of the reporter and the rush to disclaim it as fake news and just a New York thing, and then they just completely discredited her and then admitted that they did it, and then never admitted that they bashed her for no reason. So the whole thing has been kind of awful. So I'm rooting for the Nationals to win. I think it's a cool story with the Bryce Harper part, and then because of this, I have no interest in cheering for the Astros. So I think they're a whiny, cheating franchise anyway. But that's me.
What real quick? What did you think of the Darnold ghost thing? I didn't quite understand. I mean, I was busy, so I didn't read all the blowback for that. But I didn't quite understand why that was such a why would the Jets feel like that was this huge betrayal of trust from NFL Films? I mean,
I think it starts with the absurdity that people are caring that he said it. They made it he looks so awful. And it comes back to this obsession with these in the moment interviews, and then they get mad when athletes say stuff. But it's you want this access, guys in the moment, you've been there, you've played sports, in the moment you're getting your ass kicked, you're just trying, you're just venting, he's just sitting there venting, oh fuck, I'm seeing goat, but then it immediately blows out of proportion to oh, he sucks, or he's not ready, oh, it's not good, it's not a good thing, you sort of right away on Twitter, it was this isn't good, he's seeing ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, his performance that game reflected that. So I don't know what. I guess, yeah. Okay,
but the problem is it's being used as a commentary on his future. You know what I mean? Oh, this guy. And I think in the Jets' regard, I think they probably feel and I'm not defending it, I think they probably feel they put some level of trust, or at least the Players Association put some level of trust in ESPN. And from what I read, it sounds like everything that airs on this mic'd up stuff gets cleared by a rep at NFL Films.
It's vetted through NFL Films.
And they're on the premises, in the truck or whatever, and they okayed it. And I think they just felt look, like Darnold agreed to it, and then you pretty much made him look stupid. Is it right to be mad about? Like, you could be like peeved and maybe say, Darnold probably think twice before he does it again, but like, I don't think I'd go out and bash it. They got bigger problems than that. So I'm kind of in the middle on it. Like, I also didn't think it was a big deal. Like, he was getting mauled.
No, I didn't think it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So. I really didn't. Because when I heard that, I thought it was like some the way it sounded, I thought he'd like bashed his own guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, oh man, O-line sucks ass, or whatever. But yeah, okay. I just thought that was weird.
Yeah, they got way bigger issues they should be concerned about than seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
And hopefully
might need to recruit some ghosts to
finding a new coach. Hopefully. Now you're more in tune with college football than I am. Is there any chance Lincoln Riley leaves Oklahoma?
That's kind of the hot thing, but he makes so much money now. It's gonna take a lot of cheese, I think, and it's gonna take the right spot. I think he's gonna want to come in because he just looks so attractive now. Because if Jalen Hurts, who's at least in the top 3 of Heisman contention right now, if he wins the Heisman this year, he's led 3 guys in 3 years to the Heisman with his system.
Like, I'm full in, like, throw the farm at this guy. Like, that's where I'm at as a Jets fan.
Yeah, well, I think Falcons fans are there too. The Falcons fans want him, but we'll see.
And I'm low key. My second guy is Mike Leach. Like, I know he's like a pariah kind of.
No, you don't want that.
Just go in and just go full air raid like madness.
No, you do
but they
need
need something. Gase isn't it? He's been proven as a loser. I think. I think they need something more, and I'm hoping he's a one and done. But we'll see. There's already a sentiment, and it's not as much anti-Darnold per se, but there's like a sentiment that you're already in year 3 of his contract, and you're kind of restarting a rebuild again. Like, would it be of any interest to trade him? Like, if they end up tanking and pretty much like getting a top 3 again, like trade him and restart with a new rookie quarterback and a new coach. Like, that's something that's already being discussed out there in Jet circles, which I don't fully agree with because I do think Darnold's quite good, going to be quite good, but we'll see.
You should maybe look at the offensive coordinator of LSU.
Yeah.
Steve Ensminger. He's somebody that's he's 61. Never really was given much of a role. Has like bounced around everywhere. It's like quarterbacks and just kind of here, there, and everywhere. But LSU's went from a putrid offense to now they've really opened it up and done the air raid thing, and they've been booming. So
what I kind of want is like a coach. Like, everyone keeps going either defense, offense, defense. There was a lot of rumors about Dave Taub from Kansas City. I don't know if you read anything about him last year.
Yeah,
he's like the special teams guy, but he's kind of done it all. Like, it wouldn't hurt to have a coach like that and then just hire gurus on each side. You know what I mean? Like, and don't worry about having a guy that's special. Like, Gase is doing too much, is my thought. And I don't think he's particularly great.
Well, that's the problem here is like Quinn came in as a defensive specialist. And then this year he's like, they got rid of both coordinators. He's like, I'm handling the defense. And he put all his chips behind Vic Beasley. And, their defense has been absolutely atrocious. Like Matt Ryan's had a couple bad passes, but has been otherwise fantastic. And the defense has been horrendous. So.
Very
what can you do?
But it makes you wonder, like, what the Jets wanted.
I think Riley eventually will make the jump, but I think he's waiting on the right spot, and I don't think the Jets are it. To be honest,
I don't think so either. I think he probably wants a team where I think he's going to want to bring his own quarterback in. Right? So he's going to want a team that, like a situation like a Miami. I don't think they'll fire Flores, but like a Miami where you're coming in and you have a clean slate and the number 1 pick, something like that, where he can take his quarterback a choice and build from the ground up. Now, the other choice could be Harbaugh if he's forced out of Michigan finally, because again, another shit year for him there. Eventually, they're going to push him out, right?
They're wanting him to. He's kind of in that situation where he came in, they fully expected he would be in contention to take the leap to where they'd be a contender every year. And, they're losing 2 to 3 games every year. So he's not getting where they want him to. I think for Lincoln Riley, one thing that could happen is like if Arizona, there's no expectations this year. Mm-hmm. But let's say like the Cardinals next year don't do well either. I could see them just getting rid of Kingsbury and bringing him into something like that. Yeah,
maybe.
I could see something like that. But
It'll
we'll
be
see.
interesting.
Or, I mean, even like freaking Cleveland. I mean, I don't think that'd be the worst spot for him either, because he obviously has worked with Baker before. I don't think anybody's too impressed with
Kitchens.
With
well, it's such a weird thing too.
Yeah.
It's like, why did they even? They hired Monken, who that was my choice for Jets coach. They hired him as an offensive coach. They don't even use him. Like, he's not even calling plays. Like there's too many cooks. No, you do wonder. Like, for me as a Jets fan, I do wonder what would happen if they would have just hired Matt Rule from Baylor. Like, that was he was pretty much going to take the job.
Now, he's interesting because have you looked at Baylor this year in college football? They're like 7-0 right now.
Right, yeah.
And no expectation. I mean, like people were wondering if they could make a bowl game at 6-6.
He's going to get hired probably next year. I think they missed it. I think that was their whiff. But the problem is they tried to force, I think it was Greg Williams on him. Or Monken, one of them. They didn't want him to pick his own coordinator, basically. But
didn't they interview Campbell from Iowa State?
Yes,
too?
Yeah, him too.
Yeah, I like him too. Yeah.
But the only thing is, I can't be so bad at the Gase hire because that led to McCagnon getting fired. Like I don't know if any of the other hires forced him out, and they needed to get rid of him, as you can see this lack of depth that they're dealing with right now. So, like, I guess the Gase thing was the poison pill to have to get rid of McCagnon. That's fine, but I really hope they reset this year. All right, we've spent enough time. We are now a half hour into this show, Chad. That's what happens when we don't talk for a month. We got a lot to discuss.
It's true.
All right, so why don't we get into our Wrestling War Zone? Last episode, we're coming off Clash of the Champions, so we're going to pick things up with Monday Nitro. So why don't you set the stage and bring us in?
All right, appropriately, we just talked about football, and this Monday Nitro emulated from Canton, Ohio. Home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we get our announce booth introductions. Pepe is dressed with a little Dracula-style cape.
Ready for Halloween? Wait a minute.
Yes, I don't know. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the moment when the outfits just stop, or really Pepe as a thing just stops. I think it's kind of reached its expiration date.
It's gonna be kind of soon. I mean, he's got a shelf life anyway. He's done.
Right.
He's transitioning roles by the middle of the year, so either way, it's coming in soon enough.
So our pretty big main event tonight, as we have the Giant going for the world title versus Randy Savage, and then underneath that, Flair versus Hogan. So that's
on the undercard. It's crazy.
Talk about loading out a card here.
Well, this was still part of. I mean, we're not in Vegas anymore, but they're really pushing like this kind of sweeps run kind of thing that they got going on here.
Ramping up. Yeah.
The by the way, Bischoff's intense purple Planet Hollywood leather jacket that he is rocking. I don't know if he got that in Vegas or what's going on, but he is proudly sporting that bad boy, and it is heavy.
It's nice. Keeping warm.
Bringing the heat.
Bobby talks about the Road Warriors coming back, and also predicts a title change. The Giant's going to walk out with the belt, of course. So there we go. And Bischoff did call Hulk versus Flair the biggest rivalry in sports today. So there we go. And Eric gave some congratulations to the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl because the week before they hyped up Kevin Green's appearance.
That's right.
They're going to take care of business on Sunday, and no, it didn't happen.
That was one of those rare Super Bowls, too, where the score is closer than the game. Usually, I feel like at that point, it was either a blowout or close.
Yeah.
The
first, the Broncos Falcons Super Bowl is actually like that, too, where I think the final score is like 33-16, but I mean, it was just completely out of reach the whole game.
Well, by that one, when was the last competitive one? I guess was the Giants. Well, the first Cowboys Bills was kind of, I guess, but like Redskins Bills was a slaughter.
Yep.
Both Cowboys Bills are pretty much a beatdown.
Yeah, the second Cowboys Bills, especially 49ers Chargers, was
that was
insane. I think that's like 52-10 or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And so this was kind of like, I think people were just looking for something close, Same thing happens the next year. The Packers-Patriots one is like fake close as well.
In New Orleans. I do remember because that was when I was recording all the Super Bowls and would just watch them throughout the year. I remember being so happy because when I guess the Giants Bills one, I was a little too young. I was like 5 years old, so I didn't watch it. But the Super Bowl 32, the Packers and Broncos. That was like my go-to jam for so long because that was the first like good Super Bowl of my childhood, really.
It's crazy now because they're pretty much all good. Like these days, like we haven't had too many clunkers. The Seahawks Broncos, or that was kind of one. But otherwise, we haven't had too many. But at that point, it was like a shock to have good ones. It was like, oh my god! Like when Rams Titans happened, like the world, the earth shook. It was like, holy shit! Yeah. Like a great Super Bowl game. But the 96, the first one I remember is Giants Bills. Like I remember because my dad was a Giants fan. Like I remember watching that one. And Packers Broncos, I really vividly remember because my parents always had a Super Bowl party from probably like the late 80s until I want to say probably until I went to college. Like, so that one was probably the last one that they did. And I remember that day we saw Titanic during the day. And then,
big day.
Yeah, we saw Titanic during the day, came home and had a bunch of people over the Super Bowl. So I very vividly remember that game for sure.
So we start out on this show right away with Hogan versus Flair. So they do their introduction. Mongo talks about the Bash at the Beach 1994 match. So I thought that was actually a pretty good recall by him.
Yep.
For him to know that. I mean, I'm sure Mongo was a fan, but how casual.
He's not pulling that out of his hat.
Right. I don't think he's going to indie shows to check out Sabu and reading the Observer every Thursday. So
I
good
think
for
that's
him
probably
that he was able.
Mike today, maybe feeding that to him from
Yes,
the back or where the hell
that's
was working the stats. That it's also a rematch from January 1st. We saw so that they haven't shied away from running this match on TV. That's for sure. They have put it out there.
They put it out, and the crowd gives Hogan a good cheer in Canton, so he still is fairly popular, I thought here. He brings out all the women from Savage's entourage, including the last one was Miss Elizabeth. She kind of gets her own little entrance.
Well, did you mention the other two? Do you know who they are?
Well, I know Woman was one, but who else?
The other one was, I believe, Linda Hogan.
Oh,
I believe it was his wife. She's not named, but I'm pretty sure it was her coming out with him.
Got it. Nice little Easter egg there. Bischoff was perving on Liz pretty bad.
Yes.
Like, oh, she is looking mighty fine. She comes out this one. That looks good. Bobby says she does look better than Kevin Green. Then he says that I think Kevin Green's father is Mean Joe Green. All right.
That's a classic Bobby thing.
Such an obnoxious Bobby line. So Hogan shows off his power early on. Flair's begging off, of course. Commentary mentions that the women are becoming a distraction for Flair. Flair does get Hogan to chase him around, and then he rakes the eyes and sends him into the guardrail. Back inside, Hogan starts firing away, and Nick Patrick asserts himself, steps in, and when he steps inside of him, Hogan kind of shoves him away, and as soon as he does that, Flair kind of chop blocks the leg, starts going after that as we head to a break. We come back, Flair's working that over. I thought the commentary was good here, talking about how the crowd support was helping Hogan fight through the pain and everything. Hogan catches Flair off the top rope, but I as critiqueful as we've been of the Hulkster, I did think he was selling the leg here pretty well. I mean, he was doing a noticeable limp. I mean, Hogan's not going to be a sprinter in any stretch of the imagination at this point, but he was at least being consistent in selling the leg damage. It wasn't. I mean, a lot of times you see that with Hogan, especially Flair. Like, he's chopping, he's had him in the figure four, and Hogan's still just like nothing happened. Flair does get a back elbow, works over the leg some more. Hogan starts making his comeback. But Flair is able to roll to the outside. Hogan goes back and to the outside. Jimmy Hart chokes him, which I thought was good. Flair then works the leg a bit more, is able to lock on the figure four. Hogan, of course, reverses that. They break free. Hogan gets a suplex. And then I did think it was funny when they were in the figure four, Mongo was like, how many times have you seen someone reverse the figure four on Flair? And it's like about
every fucking match, Mongo. Yeah, every match.
About every single match there. I did like a good Flair throughout this match kept using the elbow as like a cutoff.
Yeah.
And so he does it here. I mean, there was a few times throughout this match where you thought like Hogan was just going to start running through his finishing repertoire, and Flair cut him off with the elbow here, and it's starting to get more cheers from the crowd as they were seeing him as the more like wily, smart competitor. Then Flair starts macking on Liz, and the crowd was behind him for that he was jawing at her. Then we do get the Hulk up in earnest as Hogan starts going to town. Now, this I did not think got the biggest pop. I thought the crowd had actually turned a little bit against Hulk.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because we've seen this routine by the numbers so much. Like, it's so old. But, of course, the big boot and leg drop. Jimmy Hart jumps up on the apron to interrupt things. Arn, our boy Arn, comes out with the brass knucks. Hogan's able to block that. But then I thought it a pretty fun finish where Arn tears off Miss Elizabeth's shoe as she was over there kind of just trying to get the referee's attention. And Flair hits Hogan with the shoe and gets the pin. So Flair gets the pin on Hogan in our opener here. I had this as a real fun match. Went 3 stars across the board and a good opener to get the Nitro off to a hot start.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, this is a dream match that they're just chucking out on TV, which, I mean, props to them. Whatever, TV was their focus, and it meant a lot, and they're trying to really start to take full control of this war. So putting this out here, I mean, the shine of it, like being unique or whatever, is gone. So why not run it? Or, you know what I mean? Like, just put it out there. It's not like it's going to be a huge draw anymore as far as on being a unique match. Hogan red hot starting the match. I thought the brawl on the floor was pretty good too. And then Flair going to the chop block and working the knee. I thought that worked and made sense. The weird crow hop that Hogan does before throwing a punch. Like I don't feel like that was always a thing with him. Like I don't know where he started working that in. Like, I remember the old punches from Hogan where he'd kind of rear back and step forward, but now he kind of does this odd little, like, he's going to throw the ball in from right field, crow hop before he throws the punch. It's an odd little tick that he starts breaking out here. So anyway, that's odd. Jimmy Hart comes in, the slowest bump ever, by the way, when Hogan kind of gently kicks him and he stumbles into the barricade. That was a little shaky. Flair just bumped like crazy. I thought that was really good. Bobby, I thought had some good points too about why Jimmy Hart's more valuable than Liz in a corner. That's kind of the old talking point from guys like him and Jesse. You hear that all the time. But I thought the ebb and flow was good. A lot of trading and control. The figure 4 was good with the reversal, the Hulk up, and then Arn coming out and using the shoe. I thought even with the dirty finish, it's still wild to see Hogan take that loss to Flair. But it was a cool moment. The crowd was into it. And I think they're trying to make Hogan feel more relatable. Like, we've seen all the bullshit in 95 with him and everything, but he's going to start actually picking up some of his losses here and stuff through this way. So I think they're trying to show that he's at least a little bit vulnerable and needs a partner like a Savage or maybe like a Sting and possibly a Luger. So Hogan's eye was bloody, which is a nice touch too. It's Savage and Liz checking on him. I know this is standard, but they have good chemistry. It works. The ebb and flow was good. The trading of offense. I went 3 1/4, Chad. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, really, really good opener to start us off. We go straight from that to a very early WCW Saturday night. And I thought this show looked freaking awesome too, and pretty loaded for Saturday night. So we have Dean Malenko versus Flair.
Yep.
Eddie versus Luger. Public Enemy is making their debut on WCW Saturday night. Sting. And then a Giant and Taskmaster interview. So a big show on the weekend there.
Yeah, no, it was well hyped. And again, it feels like they're going for the jugular a bit here in January for whatever reason. I thought February was kind of the sweeps month, right? So I don't know if they're building toward that.
Sweeps, but
yeah, they're really hyping toward it. I think they knew too. They obviously got Super Bowl coming up, which is a big show for them. They have the Vegas stuff. And then a third piece of this, too, is they're about to be on a post coming up soon, too, because of the dog show. So I don't know if they were hyping for that as well, trying to really build and be in a good spot for that coming up.
Yeah, there's also, I think, as we talked about before, like, by this point, they know they're, like, in the battlefield, too. I mean, right. Like, they're contending or beating Raw on some weeks. So it's one of those things, like, once that happens, like, they're just, Bischoff's the type of person, especially at this point, where, he's just going to push the gas pedal harder. Like, okay, Like we proved we can hang with the big boys, ironically, and now we're just gonna put the pedal to the metal and try to make that gap even larger. So interesting. Then we go from that to another big thing, where it's the Road Warriors, and they're facing the Faces of Fear. I thought the Road Warriors music was a little odd. I don't know.
I don't know if it might have been a dub.
I was wondering about that because I didn't dig it, but
I think they used the fuck. I'm trying to think of who else would have used it. Dun, 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 dun. It's like a generic. I could try and find it. It's like a very generic production theme that's been used a ton in wrestling. I'm pretty sure that's what they used during that run, but I'll try and find it.
I did like the blue look they're going for around this time with the blue shoulder
definitely.
pads.
They needed a change for sure.
Mm-hmm. Animal face paint. As we talked about, Animal had not been around on the scene since '92, so he just looked refreshing overall anyway. Barbarian and Animal start off. Animal got a real sweet power slam right away. Ming and Hulk then come in. Ming fires away as an LOD chant starts up. Ming gets a pile driver that's no sold by Hulk. Running clothesline and power slam by Hulk, and that is followed by the fist punch, and the crowd's really rocking. They're just clobbering each other. Eric says this is where the biggest boys play. There's kind of
up in the ante.
Yeah, upping it up. Barb gets the boot up, and the Faces of Fear start working over Animal. Mongo says maybe the Faces of Fear are more intelligent than they look, and Bobby says they may not be able to do your taxes, which I enjoyed that line. A nice backbreaker on Animals. They're working the back, kind of plays into, what Luger said the week before in the interview, that I think your back is hurt and that's why you've been out of commission, so I'd hate to injure it. We see the Faces of Fear going right after that. We get a nice drop kick from Ming for a 2 count, big power bomb by Barbarian as the crowd's now getting behind Animal to make the hot tag. Barbarian goes for the clothesline, and this was an unfortunate, awkward spot. So he went for the clothesline. No one sold it. I don't know what was supposed to happen there, but what happened? They repeated the spot right away. So Animal was supposed to clothesline him coming down too. So they do that again. Now the hot tag is made to Hulk. They go for the Doomsday, but Ming shoves Hulk off the top rope. Barbarian hits Animal with a pile driver in the ring, but Hulk has disposed of Ming on the outside, and then Hulk is able to get the top rope clothesline for the pin. So the ending was a little bit of a mess, but this is one of those matches I'm just a sucker for, where I thought they really 4 horses going out there, pounding it out, big moves, big bombs. This is like your perfect popcorn TV match to me. And it was nice to see the Road Warriors back, and I thought they looked effective. So I actually went 3 1/4 on this big boy.
Was that the song on the network?
Oh, I can't even recall now. I think that was it, though.
So they might have used it. That was definitely, that's like a
theme.
Yeah, they've used that before. They used that a bunch, and it was WCW and WWF, I feel like, used it for stuff.
I think it may just be because, they're one of the few that had, Iron Man was such a iconic theme when they were in Crockett, but, even their WWF theme with the loud What a Rush.
Right.
All that, that's a great theme, too. So they had 2 great themes to go to this. It's sort of deflating.
Right. This is definitely more generic. This is kind of where WCW was at this time. You either had the custom one or the real generic one. That's about it. So Ming and Barbarian, this is kind of new, right? I don't think they've been together much. I think Barbarian had just arrived for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll look up Barbarian's cage match while
check
you're
him out.
Talking the match, and let's see how much they had teamed before then.
Because he was in WWF still into the early '95, and I don't think they had been. I think this is pretty new. I think they're pretty much officially together, and it's fairly new at this point.
Yeah.
And I love the sweet match and capes as well. Those are pretty awesome.
That was nice.
Road Warriors get a big pop. I thought the music and everything else felt like a big moment. Bischoff gets a shot in Vince here too. Like it just all felt big. I did laugh at Mongo saying he watched the Road Warriors come out of Minnesota in their infancy. Like, I mean, maybe he did, but it was funny. And I thought Bischoff was sharp too. He talks about Animal's historically bad back and how that would hold up during all this. I thought it was good too. The Animal busted out his classic power slam, which was always good to see. We get the vintage, of course, Hawk no sell of a pile driver, which is, again, vintage Road Warriors. Bischoff gets another shot in here. He says WCW has introduced more top flight athletes in 90 days than anyone ever has in 2 years, and then takes a shit on Goldust. So he's pretty much working a few shots in during this one. He talks about all the great talent they've imported. So Bischoff kind of going all in during this match. Animal gets his back worked over. We get Bobby talking about Billy Ray Cyrus, and then he shits on country western music. The back work is pretty good because after the Face of Fear offense was sharp. And I don't know if they're even the Face of Fear here. Did they call him that? Or was it just Ming and Barbarian?
I think it was just Ming and Barbarian.
Yeah.
I looked it up. This is the first time they teamed together.
Okay, I thought so. So that's cool. Kind of a cool moment.
We had the Super Assassins, remember? And
well, that's right. That's Powers of Pain, yeah.
Right. So we had that. That's already flamed out. So they put Ming and Barbarian together here.
So then Barbarian just showed up. Like that probably had to be his first match back, right?
He was. It says according to Cage Match, he was in World War III, which I don't even remember. And then he had 2 matches as the Super Assassins: the Nitro match we saw versus Lex Luger and Sting, and a match versus the State Patrol on Worldwide, which may have even aired after this. Let me see. No, it aired before. But so, yeah, I mean, he's had 3 matches in the whole promotion, according to Cage Match, before this. Yep.
All right, so basically his debut. Re-debut.
I'm sorry, four matches. Okay. 4 matches, but
we'll call it his debut, though, for the spreadsheet later. I mean, of course, it was around in 92 in WCW. Right. But, all right, it's cool. That's a cool moment. By the way, the Hawk hot tag was really fun. Like, I mean, it was a big sprint, hard strike stuff, and the crowd was horny for it. Like, they were all heated up. I thought that was good. And I like the finish. The pile driver to Animal. Hawk definitely missed the cue there into the finish, but it was a fun Haas match. Hard shots. The crowd was into it. Felt like a special match. Even with the awkward finish, it cranked along. You get all the classic Road Warrior spots if that's what you're looking for. And I think Barbarian saves Ming a bit with his team because he was kind of floundering with the Dungeon of Doom stuff. He didn't really have direction. This gives him something to do at a high level. And we've obviously seen them team in WWF before, and that was really good. So something to get excited about for us going forward. So I went 2 3/4, Chad. I liked it a lot. Obviously a touch below you, but I enjoyed it. That's up my alley too.
Nice. And we got a big interview segment with Kevin Sullivan. He's flanked by Hugh Morris, who I got to say is maybe one of my least favorite wrestlers of all time. So I was not excited to see him kind of creep his way in. So
he doesn't give you a huge erection to see?
Yeah, I was fixing to say up until the general erection. I mean, just everything about this guy.
Yeah.
He
was one of those bag. Well, yeah, that too.
I mean, so that don't help things.
He was definitely like one of those fake. We have 2 washes of the like internet underdog favorites that come around. Like one is that 99 2000 era, and then we get another one like a decade later with like the Swagger and the Dolph Ziggler class MVP and Kennedy and those guys. Like it felt like, oh, these are the next young guys to come along that everyone was into, and most of them sucked. And that's kind of this too. Like Hugh Morris in like 99 was like a huge like breakout guy everyone was into, and they wanted him to get pushed because he could do the moons. Remember, like Mike Sanders, guys like that, like Sean O'Hare, like that crop, because we just didn't have a high level of talent. That was what we had to hang our hats on at that point.
Yeah, I really just never was a fan, but we'll see. I'll go in open-minded.
No, I'm with you. I'm just saying it talks about how sad it was at the time. That's what
he's just one of those
we had
guys
to be excited about.
I think there's very few. I think it's because there's very few guys in wrestling that like I just don't like really much at all. Besides, I mean, like the obviously terrible wrestlers, and he's kind of one of them. They talk about the Dungeon of Doom and Horseman dissension. Sullivan says that Anderson gave him his word. Went back on that, and here comes Arn and Brian Pillman. They come out. Sullivan says that Arn needs to discipline the loose cannon or he'll suffer the consequences. Arn takes the microphone, asks where Pillman was a few minutes ago, and he was mad that Pillman was gone during the whole Flair thing. And Arn says that's the same maturity that is running rampant through his life, and he's going to give him some tough love. So then Arn takes off his belt and acts like he's going to give Pillman a whipping, I guess. And the Dungeon of Doom attack him. Pillman bails to the outside and doesn't help. But then they smack Pillman with the belt.
Yeah, he gets whipped pretty good.
Yeah, which was kind of nasty. Arn then comes back and gets a DDT on Hugh Morris, shows off Sullivan. Arn asks for the executive committee to step in, and he wants a match with Sullivan and his stooge, which got a big pop out of me. And Pillman then...
Well, he also says if they don't, there'll be a bloodbath backstage if they don't let him fight. Yeah.
Big words from Arn. Got to take control here. So, and then Pillman says that he got the Horsemen in this mess and he'll get us out. So I enjoyed this interview segment. I think Arn and Pillman are playing their roles perfectly. I mean, Sullivan, I thought, did a good job here too. So, and Hugh was just kind of there to take the DDT and now to be the goon on the tag match that's set up for, I guess, next week. I don't even know. I didn't look ahead, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's got an army of goons. Hugh just happened to be the one they rolled out there this week.
Right.
No, this was excellent. And it kind of looks like the hushed heel alliance between these two factions is now falling apart with this whole thing. It looks like partnership's dead. Each side never really fully trusted each other. They were kind of tenuously working together, and now basically Pillman was the instigator to bust things up, and now the lines have been drawn. So the Dungeon Doom Horsemen now become adversaries versus being kind of working together on the same page. So that was really well done. Pillman's been awesome. Like you said, Arn is kind of the disappointed daddy. It's been good too. Taking the belt off was certainly interesting tact by him. But yeah, it's been good.
We had a quick Sherry interview. Basically they just showed clips of the Medusa brawl. And, quick thing to set up their match, and then we get the match of Medusa versus Sherry, where Medusa immediately scales the top rope, hits Sherry with a splash. Sherry grabs her and posts her leg. Medusa throws Sherry into the steps and suplexes her. Sherry gets a punch in, and a big brawl from these ladies. I thought Medusa actually threw some good kicks, which was surprising. And then, Sherry...
Bischoff, well, Sherry does some too, and Medusa, but in Bischoff it says that Medusa is well versed in martial arts, and then just calls every kick a back leg round kick. He just kept calling every kick that.
Sherry does get thrown off the top, but Sherry kind of rolls through once she's thrown off and gets the quick pinfall.
Which I didn't get. So, what are you doing to Medusa already?
Kind of weird. And immediately Medusa gets up and drills Sherry with the disgusting backdrop driver. And Sherry's knocked out from that. Medusa keeps banging her head against the mat as Sherry was acting lifeless. So, this literally went 2 minutes, but I thought it was fun and feisty for the time it went. I ended up going just 1.5 stars because it was so brief, but I enjoyed this, and I did not remember anything about this, but I was here for it, so I enjoyed it.
It's the Brock Goldberg of WCW 96 women's matches.
Yes.
The German was disgusting. She just fucking kills her with it. It was a hot sprint, wild scene, surprising finish, because I definitely thought Medusa was going to win. I didn't fully understand Sherry winning, but whatever. I'll take the trade-off for that disgusting murder shot at the end. Short to the point, lots of venom. I'm glad it didn't drag on. This is just perfect enough. I went 2 stars. It executed its goal, and that was to keep this thing brewing. And part of me thinks it's a big payoff to the Medusa Sherry face-to-face interview from ECW late '93 that had no payoff because Sherry went to WCW. Medusa left there. I think she went to Japan or whatever. But I'm sorry, I'm all fucked up my timeline. She went to WWF, I guess that would have been.
Wow.
Late '93, yeah. So she went to WWF. That's why they bailed on it. But it's on one of those late '93 ECWs. They're in a convention. I don't know if it was a Rezzies convention or whatever, in some ballroom, and they have a face-to-face on these big chairs in a hotel lobby, and it's really biting. They're really nasty to each other. And then they were building to something, and then Medusa goes to be a Lunge Blaze in late '93. So
left you hanging till right here. Eric got in what I thought was probably his biggest parting shot of the night, where he says that Medusa could take on any male in the WWF. Yeah. And then Mongo throws in that she's a lot more of a man than that Goldfarb.
Goldfarb, yes.
So it's like, all right. So there was
Goldfarb, baby.
Yeah. Then I think that led us right into our main event, right?
Sure did.
Okay, so Miss Elizabeth comes out ahead of the Macho Man. Savage has a chair, attacks the Giant right away. They really don't have a match. I didn't even give it a rating. So once Savage attacks, the match kind of gets thrown out. Mm-hmm. Flair runs down. We get a 2-on-1 attack between Giant and Flair. Good beat down by them on the Macho Man. And here comes Hogan with a bandage over his head and eye. And this is a well they went to, but it's one that I keep kind of enjoying. I think what we talked about earlier with the, certainly the Hogan stuff has been grating, but there are a few nuggets far between the crowd that do help in some episodes. And I thought this was one of them where, it's not much, but Hogan coming out there and walloping the Giant and Giant taking these big bumps off of that, going ass over tea kettle out of the ring, always looks impressive. Yeah. They do keep doing the same thing though, which drives me nuts, where he keeps hitting Giant with the chair. Giant goes flying out. Bobby's always marking out the Giant's not down on his feet, that he's back up. The Giant's back up. But then we always have the lame thing where the Dungeon of Doom comes running out. We even got one-man gang chugging out for this one. And Zodiac holds back Giant. For the 8th time. I don't know why the Zodiac is always the guy that has to hold back the Giant for some kind of dumbass reason.
That actually pays off, amazingly enough.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that.
It does, actually. It's a rare moment of, subtlety that pays off. Good. I agree with you. And I do think, we talked about the conceptions of Nitro, kind of not being great in these early days. And I think this is some of what's remembered is and I remember it, at the time watching this, and it felt like every episode, all right, we end with the Hogan, Sting, Luger, all that stuff. And it was repetitive. So, yes, I'm with you. I do think that was definitely one of the few issues they had at this point.
Right, but I did think at least with this one, the chair shots and stuff looked good, and then we get our finish, which I really enjoyed, where Flair just goes nuts. I don't know how else to say it. He goes crazy. He invades the announce booth. He is losing his mind, saying he beat Hogan twice. He just, yelling. This is quintessential Flair. To me, this is where you see Flair still has it. We talked about before, when does Flair not become Flair? And he's still Flair here. Yeah. And is still consistent. So he still has it into 96. And Jimmy Hart comes back to the announce booth. He pats him on the back. Flair issues the cage match challenge. Giant then comes in, says he's going to break Hogan's bones. Flair goes after Mongo, which was funny. Puts on the headset as Bischoff Bell starts screaming Super Brawl, and they just mean mug the end. So I love the ending here. I thought it was awesome, and just one of those Flair moments where he carries everything and just has such presence on the screen.
Yeah, the whole thing was really good. Liz had her shoe back on, by the way, as all the ladies came out. Savage, so back at it. I kind of like that they didn't fully go for the match. They kind of teased it and set it up, and we don't need Giant losing, and just don't even start it instead of doing a shit finish. So I liked that part of it. I thought the beating was good. The chair shots from Hogan were real nasty. Giant, he really leveled him unprotected in the head. During the match, we find out that Flair will challenge Savage at Super Bowl, so we're getting that again for the title. It's kind of been the running thing since, before Starrcade, right? Or was it after? We had the Christmas Nitro, we had Starrcade, we've had the 1-1 Nitro, so it's been Vegas. We've had it a bunch.
Yeah, it's either been mostly Flair paired with Hogan or Savage. So yeah,
right. That's pretty much been it. So we get all that announced, and then it's revealed even more in the booth when they throw down the cage that we're going to get 2 cage matches at Super Bowl.
Right.
Hogan Giant and Savage Flair will both be inside cages at Super Bowl. So it's coming up. My favorite line was Giant saying he wants Hogan's heart and soul. So he wants it all, as Huey Lewis would say. That was him, right? Heart and soul. Yeah. Jimmy Hart calls the women the witches of Eastwick as Mongo makes a gag me gesture. But I thought Flair was great. He was manic. It was a hot finish to a hot show. It was a really good episode.
Yeah, real good episode. So let's go into our awards. Your match of the night. Which one was it?
I went Hogan Flair for me.
I had Road Warriors versus Faces of Fear edging that one out. Mm-hmm. What about your segment?
I went the Horseman Dungeon stuff.
I agreed there. Your MVP.
Woo!
Yeah, I think. This felt like a Flair show. I mean, he had a good match and then just craziness at the end.
Yeah.
So good for him. Any more commentary lines?
I got a few. Both of these men are egotistical maniacs from Bobby. I'm so tired of that guy. I could spit Mongo by Jimmy Hart. The Maggot of the South, of course, by Bischoff. He has his own face on his jacket. Like, who cares, Mongo? Lock up the doors, lock up grandma, lock up your valuables. That was Bobby. The doctor probably slapped their mama when they were born, Mongo. He slings him over his shoulder like a country boy slings a bag of feed, baby. That was Mongo as well. And they're going to be a romping and a stomping. That was Mongo as well. A lot of funny Mongo-isms in this one for me. And then I did have a couple of shots fired. WCW where the big boys play where everyone else wishes they could be. Forget about it, Vince. You don't have the power, buddy. So that's like his biggest shot he lays in. I think that was, I think that was about the Road Warriors. Maybe they tried to get them, I'm guessing. And Bischoff probably got paid more. Yeah. We're not talking RuPaul wannabes. We're talking world-class athletes. Of course, there's a shot at Goldust. Bischoff reminds of Medusa trashing the belt and says if she could have stayed in WWF and taken on the men. And Mongo says Medusa's more of a man than Goldfarb. So there you go.
And the debut, we're just going to call Barbarian and Ernest.
Yeah.
Debuting. And this got a pretty big rating overall. Not a bad rating, 2.8.
Oh, so. Yeah, that's strong. Coming off a good clash.
Good rating.
Yeah. You ready for my snowflakes to fly in this, Chad?
Yeah. What did you rate this one as a show?
This is my highest rated show that we have done since we started this.
Very nice.
And I'm going 8 out of 10.
Okay. It was very close for me to be an 8 out of 10. I consider 8 out of 10 to be a great Nitro or great show, period. This was right on the brink. I ended up going 7.5. But I do think that also tied the 1.8 Nitro.
I've had the last two at 7.5. 115 and 122 were both 7.5 for me.
Yeah, that tied the 1.8 Nitro, and that's the highest ranking I've given on any show.
I had that at a 7. So for me, Nitro since the turn of the year has been 7, 7.5, 7.5, 8.
Let me just run through mine. I went 7 on 1, 7.5, 7. 6, so a little bit of a down, or no, 6.5, and then 7.5. Yeah, so they've been doing good.
Yeah, they've been on fire. And this is a great episode. Just everything clicked, everything was hot. It chugged along, no slow points. I mean, usually we get the one blah match. We didn't really get this time because the Road Warriors delivered. Like that match delivered, and the main event didn't really have a chance to be blah. So, and Hogan Flair got time and told a nice story. So they didn't really have that one match to drag it down. And the segments are all hot, and the commentary was good. Like there was everything clicked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking back at my ratings overall for Nitro, and I mean, I wouldn't say we've had a middling Nitro since November 27th. So I gave that one a 5.5.
Yeah, no, same here.
I mean, we're talking about 2 months of solid, at least good program.
6 out of 10, yeah. I mean, the worst Nitro we had was, God, I don't even know. Like, it had to be one of the earliest ones, probably.
I know that second one. Second or third one that's not very good. But,
I think it's the second one I gave a 5 out of 10. And since then, it's pretty much been 5.5 at least, and mostly 6 and up. So.
Yeah, right. The second one we watched, the third Nitro overall. Yeah, that one's pretty rough. I gave a 4 out of 10 to it. So, yep.
Okay. All right, why don't we take a real quick break, Chad? When we come back, we'll talk some Raw. We'll do our overall.
promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rozzero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content. Offer tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our previous podcasts from over the past 8 years as well, by subscribing to our feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others available at PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon while doing your online shopping. And be sure to join us at our forum at Bigelow34.proboards.com for all sorts of wrestling, sports, and pop culture discussion each and every day, where you can make your voice heard. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
In the Ferrari or Jaguar, switching 4 lanes with the top down, screaming out, money ain't a thing.
Bubble hard in the double law, flashing the rings with the window crack, holla back, money ain't a thing.
Jigga, I don't like it if it don't gleam, in the hell with the price, but the money.
All right, Nation, we're back here, episode 31 of the Wrestling Warzone, my Wars podcast retrospective. Let's really quickly talk about what's going on in the world of Place to Be Nation and PlaceToBeNation.com over on the Place to Be Nation Pop feed. Check out our weekly shows. Our traveling fanboys continue their annual Walking Dead month with guest Jennifer Smith counting down the worst episodes in the TV show's history. Of course, it is October, Chad. It's Halloween time, spooky, scary. Scott Criscolo continues his look at the classic Universal Monsters series and the latest edition of Pop Goes to the Classics with 1941 The Wolfman. So, Scotty bringing the heat on the pop feed over there. DC4U continues the DC Comics Best Horror Offerings with their review of 2019's Swamp Thing with Russell and Todd. This week in the NFL, of course, every week, the Cowboy and D'Amato look back at the week that was and preview the upcoming games. Kevin and Mary, siblings hosting the Brother-Sister Rewatch podcast, are on episode 21, season 3 of The Office, episode 13 and 14. On the newest Pop Goes to the Movies, Jennifer and Andy talk some Zombieland Double Tap. And we've been talking a lot of basketball on and off air, Chad, tonight. The NBA team back at it as Adam Murray and Andrew Reich are previewing all the teams, really, as the season gets underway. Of course, they'll be back in the flow. And speaking of sports, we have a brand new show on the feed, Diamond Conversations. Premiere episodes features an interview with 2006 first-round pick from the Padres, Matt Antonelli. So pretty cool show to check out of the Pop feed if you're diehard baseball fans or just interested in interviews like that. Speaking of interviews, we'll get to an interesting one coming up later on the wrestling feed. Special holiday edition of Laugh in Theater. Andy hosts Jenny and Miranda to live watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Do you ever watch the Charlie Browns?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not too recently, but yes, I've seen them all.
Yeah, that's just one thing I've never gotten into. I don't know. I don't think because I watched it as a kid. But
there is a big piece of nostalgia to it. I think it's hard to...
Like, I try to watch them now, and I'm just like... okay.
You kind of had to live it, I think, at the time. It's a comfort thing, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, it was on ABC last night, and, I mean, Jennifer, my wife Jennifer, she's big into it, so she was like, oh, we got to watch it, and about 10 minutes in, I was, like, searching my phone and everything else. I was out.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're doing all 3 on the Pop feed. So this is the first one, then they're going to do the Thanksgiving and then the Christmas one. So
Christmas one. I do like the Christmas soundtrack.
Yes.
I will say that.
So you hear it every year, the PTB Christmas special.
Yes, we do.
Of course, the Greatest Song of the 80s tournament has wrapped up. The new tournament will be starting soon. The greatest sitcom of all time. So like the tournament page. Get ready. It's the same page. If you already like the 80s Facebook page, it just converts over. If you haven't, look it up. And we'll be doing a preview podcast soon as well. I'll be on that with Andy and a few other luminaries to preview the upcoming tournament. I got things to say, Chad, about the sitcoms. So, speaking of Jennifer Smith has created her own new podcast feed The Jenny Position. You can find that on Podbean, iTunes, your favorite podcatcher apps, the home of Geek and Sassy, Talk Hip Hop, Freak Out Drive-In, lots of other new fun content. She also kicked off a new series telling stories. So she reads kind of like spooky, scary stories, which are interesting. So check that out. Month of October, Placement Nation holding a first annual Halloween movie challenge, giving suggestions of what movies to watch leading up to All Hallows Eve. If you're on social media and you're watching a scary movie or show, hashtag PTBN Halloween Movie Challenge. We've had some good interaction on that hashtag, which I appreciate. So keep it going. Real quickly on this feed, Chad, the PTBN Wrestling feed, myself and Scott and Todd Weber kicked off the 90s on the Place to Be podcast timeline with Royal Rumble 1990, one of my favorite Rumble matches and shows. Do you rate that Rumble match highly?
Yeah, I'd say y'all talked about it on the show, but I'd probably say for me top 5 Rumble.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's so loaded with stars and moments. Extreme Three-Way Dance, me, D'Amato, and Jenny recapped Hardcore TV from May of 94, coming off of When Worlds Collide. And, of course, more to come every 2 weeks. We bring you that, and I am loving my trip through 94 ECW. It's a lot of fun. The newest main event, Scott, Nate, and Steve welcome to Jordan Duncan. They're talking Wednesday Night Wars and SmackDown. And brand new Row 1 Seat 1. Ben had a very interesting guest. It's kind of taken over Twitter. Actually, our Twitter feed blew up over the last day or so, as he welcomed in, of course, the one and only John Keating, big member of kind of that, I don't want to call it Southern Wrestling Twitter, but that Wrestling Twitter group. You see him often. He's at John Bolo. And, of course, he's also the Act Great Bolo. John Bolo has multiple Twitter accounts, of course. But he is an actor as well. So he talks about his comedy career, his acting, his love of wrestling, and some of his life experience. So he's getting really good reviews on Twitter if you're interested in that sort of thing. I thought Ben did a great job on that interview. So be sure to listen to that. That dropped. And on the latest Talking WCW, full of nonsense and antics, Tim, Greg, and Jenny talked about the man called Sting. They looked at his 3 distinct eras and lots of other shit as well. So be sure to check that out. PlayStation.com each and every day. New voices, fresh takes, bring articles and topics from the world of wrestling. Glenn Butler's weekly walk around the web every Wednesday. Scott Crisco, Logan Crossland have their weekly hot takes every Tuesday or Wednesday. And then, of course, a new piece that drops every Sunday, John Crow with the This Week in WWE, which is a pretty good comprehensive look for those that don't want to sit through all the hours of television. He kind of gives you the highs and lows. So check that out, too. Also had a pretty hot piece by our buddy Ben about Mark Henry, kind of going against the grain for some of the folks that had him highly back in the GWWE project a couple of years ago, kind of examined if he really was great. Kind of caused a lot of ruckus over at the History of Wrestling Facebook page and elsewhere. So be sure to check that out. And speaking of GWWE, the ballot is open. If you go to the Facebook page, GWWE Pay-Per-View and TV Match Ever Project or Bigelow34.ProBars.com, you get information, you get the ballot link, and start to get your lists in. Those are due on December 31st. Shop with us, PlayStation.com/Amazon. All right, Chad, why don't we get to the second half of our Monday Night Wars showdown here tonight with Monday Night Raw.
All right. Raw, this is the third taping. From there, they quick intro. Vince sets up Yoko versus Shawn tonight. Lawler says they will revisit Vader's attack on Gorilla Monsoon, and we'll get the name of his replacement. And then we also learned that Diesel is facing Dave Boy Smith. And then Kings, I wrote this verbatim. Despite the threat of legal action against the WWF, we proudly present the latest from Billionaire Ted. So, yeah, something, as we saw, something for sure they all could be proud of when we get to that later. Then we're led into the arena by the Raw band. Doc's doing his terrible dancing. I really hate the Raw band. Doc just, he does the same thing. It's the same dance every time.
So, a little finger snap.
Yeah, it's like, it's enough. But they start out hot with a pretty big match. Diesel versus Dave Boy Smith.
Big in your house 4 rematch.
Yeah, I was going to say main event at a pay-per-view a couple months ago. Maybe they hoped you forgot about that, given how that match went, but here we are.
Yeah.
Diesel comes out. He threatens to slap Lawler as he comes out. Diesel starts off real aggressive, works over Dave Boy Smith right away. His new attitude, body slam and clothesline sends the Bulldog to the outside. Vince talks about this new attitude. And then Dave Boy Smith is able to grab onto Diesel's leg and post him to take over. So
he looks. Diesel looks at ease too, like just much more at ease with himself and at peace with himself.
Yes. So the transition, of course, where Davey Boy takes over, we get the half crab, and Yoko comes down to ringside as we head to our first break. I thought Diesel sold well here, actually. Again, between him and Hogan, two guys you don't, I guess, associate with leg selling, but both did well on this night. We talked about Bulldog. He's certainly kind of on the come down from his ratchet up the ranks once he turned heel. But I thought this was probably, I guess, one of his better performances lately, where Dave Boy Smith takes out a turnbuckle. Yoko sends Diesel back in. Dave Boy Smith tries to send Diesel into the exposed turnbuckle, but Diesel reverses that and then hits the snake eyes on it. And Cornette then distracts the official. Yoko comes in. But in our first of what we'll see is many miscues with Camp Cornette tonight. He hits a leg drop to Dave Boy Smith by accident. Diesel's able to pick up the win. So, I mean, this was a kind of solid opening match fare. Probably better than their main event match, I guess, from In Your House 4. So, I went 2 1/4. Nothing great. But, I mean, it was effective for what it was trying to do.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought Diesel looked really good, just with himself. Just he's adapting to this new attitude and new character. He just feels at ease, like just coming out. And this, you could tell this is kind of what he prefers to be. And the crowd was hot. I mean, they were into it for sure. We didn't need the fucking Old Faithful leg lock from In Your House. I was fine never seeing that move again, where Bulldog just lays on Diesel's leg. They hyped the In Your House cage match a ton with Brett and Diesel. Like they are talking about it constantly here. Yoko sauntering out, of course. Vince mentions an upcoming tour of India, and then we get Jerry making an Indian casino joke for some casual racism, mixing up different kind of Indians.
Of course.
Diesel, I thought, did a good job selling the leg as Gimpy after Bulldog had been beaten on it. Vince also drops an interesting nugget here. He mentions Bulldog's Canadian legal issues, and he says updates can be had on the hotline, which is a bit sensationalized. And I remember gleaning this from the Titan sinking books. He had got into a fight at a bar with a guy, and he ended up like in the middle, like with a big lawsuit, and he actually thought he was going to jail and everything about it. He hurt the guy pretty bad, I think. So details are out there, but that's Vince mentioning it here and plugging it on a hotline is pretty crazy. Obviously, anything at this point to make it work. I think, Snake Eyes was good. Yoko coming in, of course, he fucks up and hits Bulldog. Cornette gives him the business. Fine stuff. Definitely better than In Your House. It's continuing to set up Yoko's fall from grace. We saw it at the Rumble. It's been playing out week after week. The leg stuff was bland, but it was fine otherwise. A little bit aimless. I went 2 stars, which again made it infinitely better than the In Your House 4 mess, but still nothing that's jumping out the page. I mean, this big match compared to Hogan Flair as an opener is obviously a big drop.
That's true. Slam Jam. To the back with Doc dancing. First we cut to a backstage promo with Brett. He has quite a shiner, black eye. He basically says that he doesn't have any respect for Diesel anymore. Diesel thinks that the WWF was run on Diesel power, but the WWF was run on Hitman power. And then Brett says that he never has lost a steel cage match, which of course made me seek out cage match.
I already know one that he lost.
And look at that.
He lost to Yokozuna in one.
Well, yeah, he lost to Yokozuna. The Hart Foundation themselves lost quite a few cage matches in '89, I think it was. So he lost plenty of cage matches. So,
never lost a
some
cage match.
From the Hitman. Yeah. Pretty much the only one he won was versus Owen at SummerSlam '94. So.
My brother Owen. Speaking of Diesel, the one thing I meant to mention before is I always thought weird how King pronounces it with a kind of soft S. Diesel. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, how do you say it? You say Diesel? I say Diesel.
I would say Diesel, but I can't really talk because as I've discussed before, I cannot say Jerry Lawler very well. So I hate every time I say that. So
just to call him King,
there's just some words.
He does say Diesel.
I don't know.
Maybe
it's maybe.
At least he doesn't do the whistling S. This someone I work with on our floor that does like the kind of whistles when she does S's, and it drives me insane.
The Crybaby match is then previewed.
Yep.
Doc talks about how funny it'd be to see Razor with a diaper. So
it'd be a real gas.
Guess he's cheering for the heel there. Then we get a big angle that was shot on Superstars between Duke the Dumpster Droese and Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Duke Droese back from the dead. Yeah.
Yes. So Triple H attacked him. Well, Hunter attacked him. Cut some of his hair during the match, and then Duke came back out in Hunter's match and hit the jobber with the trash can instead. So he goofed up there. So there you go. They're set up for the pay-per-view as well.
And that's kind of playing off the Rumble match too. If you remember, they were in the pre-show
free for all or whatever they call it. Yeah. So big feud between them two brewing. Then we turn to the lawsuit. They actually show the legal action letter from Bischoff. Doc makes a plea, says they're fighting for their rights, company, and fans.
Yes, the fans are dying. They need this.
Yes, definitely need the fans. And that leads us...
pretty much pinning it on the fans to do this awful stuff.
Yes.
Like, I remember the biggest one is when on the Vince DVD that came out, whatever, like late 2000s, and he's talking about... like fighting Stephanie before her wedding and this, like he made it like because the fans really wanted to see it, they had to go through with it. You know what I mean? Like that's like classic Vince right there. Like, wants to do this ridiculous stuff and then says it's for the fans, and like no fan actually cares about it.
Straight from the playbook of call your cable provider and you're canceling unless you can get Royal Rumble 1991 or whatever it was when they were battled in that feud. And that leads us into what they are proudly presenting, the latest Billionaire Ted Wrestling War Room. So Billionaire Ted's holding a press conference. Nacho and the Hulkster flank Ted along with some suits in the back.
Ted says he's not a hillbilly wearing cheap suits.
Yes, he's not a hillbilly, nor does he wear cheap suits. They basically, this is kind of interview question style. So they had somebody say, "Is it true you provide double the programming of WWF, but purposely undercut advertising rates?" And every time they ask the question, most of the time Ted's just like,
next question. The first one was about actually, are you trying to put them out of business? The WWF out of business, and he dodges it. And then the second one was doubling the programming and undercutting ad rates. Yeah. Next question.
Then we get did you put Nitro head to head deliberately against Raw to hurt the WWF, which is quite ironic as to what we discussed at the beginning of the show. And don't you think the fans would have preferred to put the show on another night? Is one of the questions.
They're pitting this all on the they don't care about that is their whole approach in this whole thing, trying to pit them as like a non-fan friendly promotion. Like, you're doing this and it's hurting the fans. Like, put Nitro on Tuesday so fans can watch both. Like, that's kind of the act they're taking with this whole thing, which is crazy. It's funny.
Yeah. So then they make this about Ted not caring for the fans. We're trying to run WWF out of business. We do get a little bit of talk of the Nacho versus Hulkster Mania match. Hulkster says it's in his contract that he never loses. They start fighting behind Ted. But then Ted says, I won't use my own money to put WWF out of business. And then he asks Jane for his lithium. So I would say
the biggest line crossed right there.
Yeah, I haven't liked a lot of these Billionaire Teds. I actually thought the last few had kind of gotten a little bit better and a little more satirical. I thought this one was awful.
They get mean, and they get even meaner the last few. They're definitely getting like very personal. To me, though, Savage's preening is always good, but the low key like star of all this is the Huckster. Like he is great in all these. Like everyone else is kind of shaky, but he is like he nails it every time. Like he doesn't get many lines, but the delivery every time just fucking slays. Like it's in my contract that I never lose. Just like it is just so good. Like he's so good.
Which is rich because he just lost on the other show.
Right, of course.
Like 5 minutes.
It's like they did it on purpose, you know.
Yeah, Bischoff was giddy as
but it is like he's the highlight of all these things. Like he's the best part is the Huckster. He's really good. But real mean and stupid. I mean, who would care? Like I don't like, I was obviously at this time I watched Nitro, but I would have called myself a fan at this point if I had to pick between the two. And like I remember not like I thought the stuff was funny at first, but like I don't care that they're undercutting it. Like it's such a miss. Like you're not going to rally your fans to like call a cable company because Ted Turner is getting cheaper ad. Like no one's going to give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like Vince hasn't given us reason to care. Like if he had to come out here and say, "Hey, we were going to have so and so on. We were going to bring you the Road Warriors, but we couldn't afford it because I had to pay more for it." Like if you give us a tangible reason to be mad about it, instead of like why it's like it's like Jerry Jones complaining that he lost $100 million on some whatever, like billionaire screwing billionaire. Like I'm not going to cry about it. Like it's whatever. So unless it actually hurts the product that I'm enjoying, it's not going to upset me. So it's just such a miss from the target as to like making us give a fuck about it. Right.
Yeah. The rallying of the troops falls on deaf ears with how they're presenting it. So that's that. That's what they were very proudly to present. Another wrestling order. Then we get a tag match: Body Donnas versus the Godwinns. Phineas. Yeah, Phineas is on the scene now.
Yeah.
Hillbilly Jim gives him his golden horseshoe, which is his good luck charm. We talked about how cooked the Donnas are. I mean, good Lord, they start quick. Sonny uses their interference.
Do you want to talk real quick about Phineas, who he is?
Okay, so what's your thoughts on Phineas? Your big take?
No, I don't have much of a take, but Dennis Knight. Okay. It started working in '88. It was introduced by Steve Kern, who trained him. Debuted as Tex Slazenger in 1989, so he had that gimmick pretty quickly. Worked in the USWA as Leatherface, and then left there, went to WCW as Tex Slazenger again, worked as a honorary Texas Outlaw, and then, of course, formed a team with Shanghai Pierce, who was Henry Godwinn. They both left in 94. Mark Canterbury, was Henry Godwinn, went to WWF in 94, whereas Slazenger went back to the USWA, he actually won the Southern title twice from Brian Christopher, and then comes back here and gets reunited. And he sticks around for a long while. He is in the WWF until 05, 06, I think, right? Around. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 01. And then I think he pops back in like with a run like training and stuff in 05, and then TNA a bit, retires in 06. So he's got a pretty good run. I mean, he's consistently on TV for about 5 years here.
Okay, and take everything I said about Hugh Morris about 30 minutes before and attach it straight to Phineas. Is my personal thoughts on.
I fucking hated Phineas Godwinn.
Mr. Godwinn.
Yes. I couldn't stand him. I didn't mind Henry, but I hated Phineas at the time. Like,
he was just like such a goober. Like there's no other way to say it.
And that stupid baggy long shirt like drove me fucking insane. Like it was like the pajama like shirt.
Yes.
Oh God. It was like Ebenezer Scrooge's pajamas or something. It was just like ridiculous looking. It was just
Long John outhouse attire. Yes.
It's awful.
It was very bad.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they win this and basically a squash.
Well, hey, I got a few notes of this. Sonny was looking hot, by the way, and Vince is like all focused on her. Like everything about the Baidanas like has to do with her. Like she's gonna lead them to goal. Like they're not gonna do shit. Like she's gonna lead them. She's gonna do this. She's gonna do that. The Hillbillies, of course, dance and jig. We get the lucky horseshoe passing of the torch, and Vince is just eating all this up. Like he is just loving all of it. Oh yeah. Henry and Skip start off. Vince says the Godwinns are monstrous. He keeps calling Hog Hank. That's his thing too. again, puts over Sonny as the greatest assets. He keeps mentioning that. Sonny flirts with Hillbilly. Hillbilly is impervious to it, by the way. He's not wilting at all to her siren song. Threatens her with a slop. King calls out Hillbilly perfume, which kind of made me laugh. Phineas, of course, wins with a slop drop on Skip. I just completely bland. The Biden does have good offense, but God, what a waste in this worthless division. They should be anything. They deserve so much better than this. I guess like Henry gets some new life with Phineas, and it gives like a bodies for the division, but yeah, God, Vince just loves it too much. I went star and 3/4 just for whatever, but
oh yeah, half star for me.
Oh, that's rough. I mean, it was fine, but
it was like a minute. I don't know what you got from this. I want to look at the time for that.
I got a lot out of it. I just told you everything I got out of it.
Well, yeah, but that was
your Phineas hate clouded you on this one.
Oh no, this was like definitely like sub 3 minutes, I think.
It was he pulled the wool over your eyes with that giant shirt, and you didn't see
why do they have the same finisher move? I was interested with that too.
That's how they're raised out in Bitters, Arkansas. Everyone coming up gets taught the slop drop. Because that's how they subdue the pigs, right?
I guess. Raw 146. Let's see.
Yeah, that's a summer match.
No, never mind. Damn it.
How long? 5.
Let's see. 145. It's actually Raw number 145. 2 minutes and 17 seconds. That's fine. Whatever. I rest my case.
Good enough. It's better than half the slop I've seen on these MSGs that go 10 minutes, so I'll take it.
I guess. They do dance with Sonny afterwards. Tease the slop, but it didn't happen. They did. Now I will say they load up next week's show, so they're at least doing that. So we are going to get Bret Hart versus Undertaker next week on Raw. Now that's a big match, which was kind of funny because they promised leading into the Rumble, they were like, we showed the In Your House matches in full, but you will not see the pay-per-view matches this time. It's like, but we'll just run the match back on
right.
Raw.
Well, it's not that exact match. If you want to get put to sleep by that exact match, you got to watch the Rumble.
Here we go. Then we get a Vader video package. This was fine. Showed everything leading up to his attack. And that cuts to Clarence Mason. He has some stern words, talks about everybody's having an agenda. Against Vader. He wants them to retract Vader's suspension immediately. And he has a suit pending. So a lot of litigation going on for Clarence.
He's already put a motion in action to squash this ruling.
So he's been a busy boy, Clarence.
He wants an injunction, criminal action if suspension's not lifted.
Yeah. I don't really see the case there, but
well, that's why he's here. That's why they hire the best in the business. Gorilla will join us next week to respond. We get the address of good wishes to goodwill wishes for Gorilla.
This was somber. Yeah. The Get Well Gorilla graphic with the address there. Yeah.
This is good. I like Clarence. He's good. He's funny.
So Vince is in the ring and he's going to announce Gorilla's replacement. We learned that Gorilla personally picked him. And out comes Roddy Piper as his replacement. Now, this is something I remember this as a kid, and I remember it as I've talked about before. My dad, he was very casual, but so I'm guessing I watched this on the recap on like Livewire or something, because at this point I was 9 years old. Yeah, still had the pretty strict 9 o'clock bedtime. So I was not catching much of the Raws and Nitros live. So I'm guessing I watched it on the Livewire, but I do remember my dad being like, "Oh, Piper's back. This is going to be interesting." So he was into it at least.
I definitely remember being excited. Yeah, I was excited at the time for sure. I mean, he had been gone since really
King in the Ring.
94, yeah, but even before that, like he hasn't been steadily on since like 92. I mean, he's popped in and out.
I think it's, like as far as match wise, it's like he has the WrestleMania 8 match, and then I don't even know if he has another match until.
No, he doesn't.
King of the Ring.
Nope. Yeah. He's not even around until then. He returns at WrestleMania 10 as the referee.
Right.
Then he sticks around, he does that bottom line segment on All American. That sets up the King of the Ring match. Then he leaves again. He comes back at 11 to ref the Brett match, and then he's gone till here.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you say? So he hasn't been around since then. So he's been sporadic. I mean, he's been really sporadic since his retirement, really, at 8. So this is his big return, and it's also his final run until 03. So he's around for a month, and then he's gone for.
It's kind of crazy. I'm looking
years.
on his cage match now.
7 years.
I'm sorry.
No, and then he's gone for like 7 years after this. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, big. So he does 3 house show matches versus 1, 2, 3 Kid. It's just kind of random.
I'm guessing they were probably fill-ins for Razor.
Oh, yeah, probably.
He probably just was filling the dates for Razor, who got suspended soon. So.
Okay, so he comes out. Nice reaction for him. King is gobsmacked at this.
Yeah, he's not happy.
Yeah, not a happy camper here.
I'll give this to King. If for all his faults, he sticks to the stories. Like he hates Piper since '94, and he hates him now. Like he's all in when he's in these feuds.
Definitely. Piper asks Vince if this makes him his boss, and then demands to be called Mr. President. Then he brings up his past about the coconut and everything else, and talks about how crazy it is he's in charge. Vince asked him about, well, what do you think about the superstars of today? Piper says they're a new generation of some of the greatest and toughest athletes he's ever seen. He says the only thing they aren't is they are a little confused, which is the most convoluted sentence I've ever heard. But Piper says he's going to straighten things up. There will be no government shutdown. Talks about Newt Gingrich and said from where he's from, Newt is someone that can't have kids, and he's had 6 kids, so he's not a Newt.
I don't remember a government shutdown in '96. I guess there was I guess I wasn't too into the news at that point, but
yeah. He pulls out a list of rules. Vince says, "Wait a minute, you never lived by the rules." Piper's like, "You're right," and he tucks them back into his kilt. And then Piper says he loves the fans and that they are in good hands with Roddy. And he says everyone's going to have to pay the Piper. He grabs Vince and turns him around in an airplane spin. So, I mean, this was fine.
Yeah.
Piper didn't say much here.
No, it's just establishing him. Yeah.
Yeah.
The and him with the Vince and the airplane spin is kind of a classic clip. Like it's up there with the Andre putting his hand on the face, and like all that stuff. Like it's kind of one of those classic like ones they would throw out in video packages and pictures every now and then. Him having Vince up in the airplane spin. So it's just to set up Piper as kind of wild, a wild card. He's going to let shit go. He's going to give the fans what they want. So he's just whatever. Just it's kind of a reminder of who he is, and he works in the like you said the coconut. He mentioned Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T and fighting the police. So he really kind of talks about how he's nuts, and now he's kind of in charge of the asylum. Is pretty much how it's presented. But no, I thought it was fine, and I think he's a good choice for the role. Like with Gorilla out to sell this, I mean, like there's probably not too many guys better that they could have pulled off the street than Piper to put in this role for a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who else wanted to put in, so it was good. Yeah, it was fine. Then we get a Mankind vignette.
First one.
So this was interesting. Now, had they run any on Superstars? They may have, because it seemed like Vince was talking about it.
Right. There may have been one on Superstars.
He's like, I can't stop wondering who this man is. So
it couldn't have been many, though. I don't think it was too many. He just keeps asking like random questions. And, why is the sun bright?
Right. So he says all of life's great questions are unanswered. They really do a close up on the on Mick's ear.
Yeah.
So it was effective. And then when we do come back, King says that he doesn't know who the man is, but he thinks that his name is Mankind.
So January 6th was the first Mankind promo on Superstars. That's what Graham has.
A few of those.
Yeah, I don't know if there were more, but Graham has that one noted specifically on January 6th.
Okay. So I mean, that was
have a nice day. You just get that in. So.
And that leads us into our main event on Raw, which is Yokozuna versus Shawn Michaels. Shawn comes out. He does the cheer boo gimmick with the fans where he points to Yoko. They boo. And then he kind of dances around being pretty much a put. Just kind of
always. He always does the comedy stuff in this face run. Like, that's the one thing from mid-95 through here is, like, he just always does, like, the kind of goofy comedy shit.
Right. Yoko gets the early power advantage. Sean's able to slide under Yoko with speed and punches Yoko out of the ring. He's dazed. Cornette calls for Owen to come out from the back. We go to a break with Camp Cornette regrouping from there. Back from the break, Sean hits a double axe handle and moonsault for a near fall. That got the classic Vince 1, 2. Oh, he got him. No, he didn't. I hate what he does to that. But that was a big one. Then Yoko sends Sean into the corner, and he took a crazy bump. Mm-hmm. It's the Triple H Harley race, hook your arm and go flying. But Sean really committed to it on this one and went nuts outside. Corny is able to distract the ref as Owen works over the back. He rams it into the ring post. And then what does Yokozuna do to follow that up? It goes to the nerve hole. So that slows things down. This did only last about a minute, though. Mm-hmm. We go to another commercial break, our last break of the night. We come back to see Yoko miss the leg drop. Now, he'd already leg dropped Davey Boy Smith by accident earlier in the night. Now he misses this leg drop, so we might want to shell that move if you're Yoko. Sean recovers first, but misses a big splash. But they're still both down. I mean, they've always done this where, like, when Yoko's off his feet, mm-hmm. it's like impossible for him to get back to his feet. Okay, it's a battle. It is a feat because, I mean, Sean missed a big splash and he's still the first one back up to his feet and punches Yoko, hits his like flying fist forearm, and Yoko's down. Sean goes to the top, but Yoko's back up and gets him in a bear hug, sending him into the corner. Cornette distracts the referee one more time, and Owen accidentally hits Yoko with a spinning back kick, and Sean gets the sweet chin music to pick up the pin. I thought this was actually kind of fun mm-hmm. and feisty. You knew the Yoko turn was probably coming, so it was at least nice to see them paired off here in a heel versus face role. So I ended up going 2 3/4 for this one.
Me too. It took us all night, but we are in unison on a grade.
There we go.
2 3/4. King works in Tammy Faye Baker and Michael Jackson makeup jokes to get going, so timely. The comedy of, as always, Owen comes out. And like you said, you knew the Yoko stuff was coming. They weren't going to have 4 in the Camp Cornette. They seemed pretty set on the 3. So, like, you knew that Vader and Yoko weren't going to coexist, and it seemed like they were naturally kind of lining things up there. I like the moonsault from Sean. I thought that was a pretty good spot. And, yeah, his bumping is just insane. I mean, he's just bumping like a fucking madman. He's kind of setting the tone for what we'll see for the whole year here in January. Just laying it all on the line. King says that Yoko is the favorite wrestler of the Cowboys' offensive line because they want to be as big as he is. And then we get the comeback. Owen coming in, and of course we get the miscommunication like you mentioned to push the storyline, and then Sean gets the win. A rare Yoko clean pin too. Like, he hasn't been pinned clean too many times. So we get that, and it was a good finish to bookend the camp issues. We open the show with him, we end the show with him, and Sean really had a bumping clinic, I thought, in this with Yoko. Just got to be in his base for the whole match. And again, like you mentioned, I noted it too that the nerf hold thankfully was not very long.
Yes,
he's getting more efficient. He's getting more efficient with it, so that's good.
I mean, even because it's like he focused on the back, Owen did on the outside, and he rolls him in. I'm like, okay, Yoko will probably transition into a bear hug, which will be boring. But then when he took him down and went straight to that nerf hold, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. At least like the bear hug would have been psychologically correct. But,
right. Well, he needed his breather, Chad. What do you want him to do? 600 pounds.
So. The
crowd is hot. It was a fun match. Not much else, but again, fun to further the storyline, give Sean a win as he's starting to ramp up toward his title shot. So 2 3/4 from me. After the match, Cornette, Yoko, and Owen all argue. British Bulldog comes out. He tries to cool him down. Then they turn their attention to Sean, but Diesel makes a save. Vince talks to Cornette. He denies dissension, and we get a big tag match set up for next week. Shawn Michaels and Diesel against Yokozuna and the British Bulldog. Cornette issues that challenge. So should be interesting. Of course, that's basically a rematch from In Your House 3 that we'll see when Owen gets subbed out. Did you like that finish? Or
Yeah, I mean, it was a fine little wrap up. I will say at the very last thing you see is Diesel and Shawn in the ring doing like funny guy kung fu type poses to the outside. That was, I don't know. I don't know if Diesel's new attitude should be that he's doing goofy kind of comedy shit. Yeah, but I mean, it was.
I think it's supposed to just be like
so.
He doesn't give a fuck kind of thing.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Clown. Yeah.
All
right. So why don't we do our awards here? What was your match of the night?
The main event.
Yeah, same. Moment, I went the Piper interview.
Yeah, I think you have to go with Piper.
I went Shawn for MVP. I thought he worked his ass off in that main event. He bumped like a fucking nut. And I mean, it was all him. He pretty much. I mean, Yoko was fine, but he pretty much carried that whole match.
Yeah, I ended up going with Diesel just because I thought he was pretty good in the opener, and then he made the big save at the end. But I don't know. It wasn't exactly a sterling night for any one star for the promotion. Yeah.
All right, commentary. I'm worried about these Indian reservations. Too much gambling going on over there when they talk about the India tour. Bring everything you got, you big dummy. Brett said about Diesel. And just what we need in the WWF, another hillbilly in a cheap suit. Talking about Billionaire Ted, I guess. Or maybe that was the Godwinns referencing Ted. Billionaire Ted was the only shot fired.
Shots fired.
Actually, yeah. Billionaire Ted was it.
Okay. Phinneas and Piper. Two big debuts there. Two P's.
Phinneas and Piper.
Is that right? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
And a low rating, 2.4. So
yeah, they got killed.
They got beat there fairly handily. So what'd you give for the show?
I probably gave it a little bit more than it deserved because I was probably feeling high from the Nitro. I went 6 out of 10. I mean, it's probably better than some of their average stuff just because, like, they give us 2 quality matches on paper. One delivered a little bit more than the other, but I thought it moved along fine. Like, it didn't drag as an episode. They at least have focus. I like the Piper announcement, so, they were fine. Like, we've seen much worse.
Yeah, it was fine. I went 5.5. I don't know. Yeah, talking about it, I think I'm lower on it, discussing it than when I watched it, but it was an okay watch.
Yeah.
So it was all right. Well, let's do our combined, and then we can get on out of here. So match of the night for both. Let me put that in.
Yeah. I mean, I went Hogan Flair. I know we had different stuff. That was my highest grade.
I think Hogan versus Flair is probably going to average out to be the best of both. And then, best show, we're going Nitro.
Yeah, that's not even a question. Yep.
Yeah. Our moment, are we going to do the Horseman or the Piper?
I think the Horseman was technically better, but the Piper thing was kind of bigger. Like that's a pretty big moment for WWF.
Okay.
Like to bring him back and set him up, especially with what's coming over the next couple of months. So,
commentary.
I liked Nitro. I thought they were more biting and focused.
And our star, are we going to go with Flair?
What do you say? Yeah, I would say Flair. I think was the.
All right. Yeah, what do you say? And then Nitro was the ratings winner. So only Rowdy's the only thing that prevented a coin sweep for Nitro.
So Chad, WWF has not won our combo best show since Survivor Series, beating World War III. It has been a clean sweep since November 27th for WCW. They have won every single head-to-head for us.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd even think. I mean, that clash was not that great, but I mean, compared to the Rumble.
So we've done 25. We've done 25 weeks of things, either pay-per-view combined or TV combined. And WWF has only won 4 of them. 3 Raws and Survivor Series.
Oh, yeah. And 2 were in our first 3 shows.
Yeah. So since October 2nd, they've only won Survivor Series and 1 Raw. That was the go-home to Survivor Series with the Shawn collapsing.
Collapse, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, so it is decidedly WCW at this point. Not even close.
Yeah, right.
All right, that'll do it. So we don't know when we'll be back. Hopefully sooner than a month, but we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what we can do. But our next episode, will be, what do we got coming up?
I think it'll be the go home for Super Brawl.
Yep, so we got a full Nitro and a full Raw from February 5th, and then after that is Super Brawl 6, and then we get the solo Nitro in there.
Right. After that, it's going to be kind of weird. So we got 2 shows, our regular programming next time we convene. But then after that, it's Super Brawl, and then the night after Super Brawl is just Nitro.
Yeah, so a dog show, and then after that's in your house. So we're not back head to head. It'll be a run. So we got our next week. Our next 3 after that are kind of wonky. All right, I'll be back next week. There should be a brand new 3-way dance, and the PTB Halloween special as well will be next week, of course. That should drop on, I think, the 30th or on Halloween. We'll see. So that'll be, I forget what year we're on for the Spooktacular, but quite a while we've been doing that. So looking forward to it. Anything you got coming up you want to talk about?
This is it. So.
Okay, very good. It's like Kenny Loggins said. All right, that's it. That's Chad. I'm JT. We're out. Smell the napalm. We'll see you, brother.
And on the mix real quick, and I like to say he's not black, but he's fat, and his name is Jay. King Midas, as I was told, everything that he touched turned to gold.